the problem with paying maintainers has long been argued about and talked about.
Yeah.
I don't think that the solution is government open source welfare. Paying maintainers from the government or having the government foot the bill for some of these. I just think that's one of those things that you're going to have a hard time unless the government assumes more control over where projects are steered or going.
Well, but let's say it, right? Government tends to waste a lot of money on various crap, right?
True.
And I think probably giving some of that money to open source would
They could do a lot worse.
provide more value, right, than some other things which are.
But who do you give it to?
That's a great question. It's very unclear, but I would say the answer is someone.
Well, okay. So if can I apply for a grant if I have an open source project and anybody can go get it? Or is it like something where someone in somebody who's lobbied or even like given money by other people gets to choose, like, you get money, you don't get money?
I mean, I would say that even if the system that is distributing that money is flawed, still better to funnel more money into open source, right?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. Because if it's flawed and you are funneling it to, a very small group of people, that can really skew things as well. And it can make more of a disparate difference between the haves and the have-nots.
Well, I mean, I think the question in this case here is always what alternative, right?
I don't know. I don't have the
we
answer.
compare it to, right? From my standpoint, I am not a big fan of government welfare in this case. But if you're saying, well, you know what, we are going to give those things like waste on various like a proprietary stuff. That is not a good idea, right? And I think also one thing that you're saying in the government is grants, right? The other is kind of government more of a leading the way to say, well, we are actually building software for the government needs, right? To make sure what the components what we are using, right, are actually well maintained, right, and providing some funding in this case, right? In this case, that's different, right?
Absolutely.
Right, that is something which is sort of essentially focusing on your government project supply chain instead of like spending a bunch of money on Oracle, right? We'll just help Larry to get a bigger boat. Right, instead of providing any value to society.
We do see in SCARF's data quite a bit of government organizations, government orgs using packages that are distributed on SCARF. And I feel like if the government even had, let's just take the United States, just saying, yeah, we'll send money to specifically those dependencies. Like, the alternative is they don't do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess one of the things you said, Peter, though, which is interesting, is if they did want to support these projects, hiring developers that worked on them would probably be an effective strategy.
I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think where Peter's coming from is like, well, no, the government will royally mess it up if they try to do that. Better let the people who actually, are the subject domain experts do it, and then make sure that
contribute versus not. I mean,
well,
I don't know.
I would say from my standpoint, right? One, I think, is what if you have a good approach that the government, right, should embrace open source more, right, as a preferred approach, right? But in this case, you have to understand the open source better, because it looks to me like in many cases there is not much difference between like open source, open core, right, or let's say the open source, which is kind of a shrink wrapped in a cloud, and for that becomes really proprietary, right, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they're preferring real open source, right, and creating a preference for the vendors, right, which can provide those services, including maintaining those open source projects. That's the opportunity for funding can happen, right? But with actually also like direct benefit to their to the consumers, right? Like, well, and I mean, like by people who use those government services right in the end try to benefit from.
Did you have a thought?
No, go. No, you look like you were gearing up.
All right.